The environmental crisis is easy to talk about. There were two articles just in the paper this week about how many billion tons of ice melted, especially in Greenland, and the disappearing, what do you call those sheets of ice? Glaciers. And one of them had disappeared altogether, and they had a picture of these guys walking across the mud where the glacier used to be. And it said that all of their glaciers were losing ice. And they talked about how much water that was producing. It was enough to flood Pennsylvania to a depth of 1 foot. And that was just one of the casual things that was in the morning news about the environmental crisis. And of course, species are going extinct. And we don't really know what long-term effects it may have when one species dies, what it's going to have on other parts of the food chain and particularly on ours, end of the planet, of a secure and safe and civilized life for our children and grandchildren and beyond. That was a letter to the editor. I don't know if he had all of his numbers right or not. It's very, very important to stress that in each of these crises, a worldwide cooperative response is necessary, and that is getting less and less likely. And Mr. Trump is the one I think that we blame the most for that, but it's true of, what's the guy's name in Italy that's, one of them is just, he was bad enough, but he's stepping down because somebody even further to the right is taking over. And the guy in Brazil is an outright fascist. And he campaigned on the idea that he was going to let them burn the rainforest. And now the rainforest is burning, and he's saying, well, it's somebody else's fault. But the rainforest in Brazil is also called the lungs of the planet. And it's on fire. So we need this cooperation, and we are less and less likely to have it. Now, who's to blame? I think there's a lot of finger pointing going on. The Democrats say the Republicans, and the Republicans say the Democrats. A lot of people say Mr. Trump. They used to blame these things on sunspots. When they first realized that, that economies went up and down, some guy counted sunspots, and he said that when there's more sunspots, then we have more crop failures. Or it may have been fewer sunspots, more crop failures, I don't remember. But anyway, he blamed it on sunspots. And the people who called my radio show this morning, I think several of them would agree that the problem is moral decay. People have moved away from God, they have not gone to Sunday school enough, and God is out to get us for this. So I think that is the laziest excuse that there is, because it means you don't really have to do anything, doesn't it? God's will. So let it go. Whether you believe in God or not, you cannot afford to sit around and wait for the destruction of the world. A lot of people blame Mr. Trump, and I think Mr. Trump falls under the heading of a few bad apples. Like when the police, somebody comes up with statistics that says the police shot, so many white policemen shot so many black people. Well, they were just a few bad apples, We had a few bad apples. And these statistics don't mean anything because there's just an awful lot of bad apples. And Mr. Trump, I would agree, is a bad apple. But I don't think that's the problem. I think it's the